Blue Lock is a sports anime. So let me ask you a question. How does a sports anime about freaking football have such an amazing power system? How? Blue Lock started as a series where a group of high schoolers basically turned into football ninjas. But the more chapters came out, the more we discovered the insanity of the power system, which gave us some of the craziest abilities in manga history. Abilities so wild and creative that millions of manga readers fell in love with them. Notice how I didn't mention the anime, because what is this? I hate you season 2. So today, I'm going to explain Blue Lock's power system, but most importantly, I'm going to show you all the things that it does perfectly. And I'll even compare it to a bunch of other legendary power systems. But first, imagine you've been playing football or soccer. So you're having fun, you're getting better, and this is starting to actually look like something you might do for the rest of your life. Well, that's freaking tough, because you're invited to an insane football club called Blue Lock, and if you're not one of the best players, you are never, and I mean you are never, playing football again. And how is that legal? So now, you need to get better, which is exactly where the power system comes in. In Blue Lock, for players to become the best, they need to believe they can become the best. They need to build a strong ego. And the stronger their ego, the more they unlock new abilities. Abilities that you can see through auras, but mainly through a bunch of different types of eyes. So here, for example, this is the first chapter of the entire manga, and you can see this energy appearing in Isagi's eyes, and right next to it, there's like this really cool dynamic shot. This panel is approximately halfway through the series, and it's this moment where a character unlocks this new ability, and you get this panel. And this is like 30 chapters later, and can you see the absolute insanity of this panel? I mean, there is nothing more terrifying than the Blue Lock face. I always hear people talking about beautiful power systems, you know, stuff like Ganshakuta, One Piece, or even Demon Slayer. And I have absolutely no idea why Blue Lock isn't part of this conversation. I mean, no, I know why it's not part of this conversation. It's because of that stupid anime, you stupid piece of shit. And despite what the anime is trying to tell you, Blue Lock is a manga that looks freaking incredible. And one of the main reasons it does look incredible is because of the power system and all of its stunning abilities. From the first to the last chapter, Blue Lock delivers beautiful panel on beautiful panel, which is not something that can be said for many power systems out there. And yeah, that's cool. But what sets it apart even more is something almost no other power system does. Check this out. So this is a scene where a character called Rin is really struggling, because the thing is, he's already having a pretty bad game, but he's also playing against his brother, who in the story basically abandoned him, so it's really mentally difficult for him as well. So Rin becomes angry and he focuses on the game, but then suddenly something changes. He starts to hate his teammates and he completely freaking snaps. I mean, this man goes from looking like a freaking model to this. In this moment, Rin connects with his ego, the power system kicks in, and he becomes one of the best players on the field. You know, there are so many examples of characters that have to overcome personal issues like this during a game. Like this guy. He realizes he's not as good as he thought, he overcomes it, and bam, he becomes one of the best players in the series. This guy realizes he's relying on others too much, he overcomes it, and bam, he dribbles an entire team. This guy knows that if he doesn't level up, he's going to be in the shadow of the other players. He overcomes it, and bam, he does one of the coolest things in Blue Lock, and it looks so bad in the anime. I hate you so much. In Blue Lock, when characters face what's holding them back, that's when the power system kicks in the hardest, and we see their abilities in a way that feels natural, emotional, and so freaking hype. Power system shows us who these characters are as players, but also as people. And that is not something many power systems do at all. Oh yeah, sorry, except for Isagi's disgusting aura. That doesn't actually tell us much. And so far, all this sounds completely insane because, yeah, we're talking about freaking high schoolers playing football. But what if I told you that Blue Lock's power system weirdly makes perfect sense? Let me show you. Okay, so imagine you're doing something where you just really need to focus. Maybe you're studying, maybe you're playing League of Legends for some reason, or maybe you're even practicing some kind of sport. Everything is going pretty well, you're feeling pretty good, and all of a sudden, you're in this state where, you know, it just seems like you can kind of do anything because you're completely 100% focused. This is called flow, and it's a massive part of Blue Lock's power system. And what's crazy is that it's also something that actually exists. Okay, so I completely forgot to bring it with me, but yeah, basically, I mean, there's a book written on this subject, and it's literally called Flow. And there's a really high chance you already felt flow at some point in your life. At its core, Blue Lock is about pure hype. It's about these regular high school dudes pulling off the most absurd techniques that look like they're straight out of One Piece or something. But somehow, it doesn't feel absurd. And that's because these wild abilities are almost always based in science. But on top of that, they're explained in so much detail that they actually kind of make sense. As a viewer, I love this because I can just put my brain down and enjoy the absolute insanity of the game. The power system is structured enough that the author can go wild with his creativity, but nothing ever feels random. And that's something that most power systems get wrong with their rules, because usually it either feels like they just don't really matter that much, or there are just way too many of them. And yes, I'm looking at you, JJK, because I will never forget how much you made me read, okay? So Blue Lock's author found a way to avoid the problem with rules, but he's kind of a genius because he also found a way to avoid another trap that some of the most famous power systems fall into. Okay, so there are a bunch of power systems out there that rely on a source of energy, like Ki from Dragon Ball or Chakra from Naruto, for example. And a problem that they have almost every single time is power creep. It's basically when some characters become stronger and stay relevant because they got a bunch of this source of energy I was talking about, and all the other characters are almost completely irrelevant because, you know, they're just not strong enough. But here's what Blue Lock does. This character is literally nicknamed Messi, and we never see him play in Blue Lock. This character is one of the best high school players in Japan, and he's out of Blue Lock in like chapter 2. And this character is one of the main characters for a long time, but the only way he can stay in Blue Lock is by letting like people turn him into a football zombie. The way Blue Lock system stops power creep is by going, hey, we love power creep here. I mean, that's kind of the entire point of Blue Lock, right? If you're not good enough, you're out. So the more the story goes on, the better the players are. I mean, at least most of them. And that's one of the ways Blue Lock's power system keeps everything unpredictable, but it goes even further. If this guy is easily one of the best players at some point, he gets stopped. If this guy has one of the most absurd shots in football history, he gets stopped. And this guy probably has the most OP ability in Blue Lock, but he gets stopped. Even though the characters have these unstoppable techniques, even though they have literal numbers showing how good they are, those things don't decide the games. Because it's not just about skills or a character's ranking. It's about how well they use their abilities both individually and with their teammates. And this gives the author even more creative freedom because he can just imagine the craziest stuff without ever making the characters feel too powerful. While I was reading the manga, I found out that Blue Lock does something that very few other power systems do, which seems kind of crazy to me because it can really take them to the next level. So remember how the abilities are based around the idea of having a strong ego and actually believing you can become the best? Well, check this out. This is Isagi, the main character. At the beginning of the story, he's a decent player, but nothing special, honestly. I mean, there are a lot of moments where people are just openly roasting him, like this one dude is calling him Mr. Average to his face. But there's actually one thing that makes him stand out from everyone. He accepts that he's mediocre, but he still wants to become the best, and he believes he can become the best more than everyone. And once he develops his ego, he's not great at shooting? No problem. He learns the direct shot so he doesn't need to shoot. He's not very fast? No problem. He learns off-ball movement so that he doesn't have to run. He's not very strong? No problem. He learns how to see the whole freaking field like a puzzle thanks to the power of his massive brain. Isagi is the average guy who becomes exceptional. The story is that Japan wants to create the best striker in the world. And in Blue Lock, the best striker isn't the one with the most skills. He's the one with the strongest ego. So regardless of how average or normal a player is, if they develop their ego, they can become the best. In fact, there are so many moments where characters level up and transform because of their ego. This is so awesome because it feels like the power system isn't just an extra cool thing, it's part of the story. And even though this is such a simple idea, having abilities that are connected to the story as a whole isn't something that most power systems do, even the best ones out there. But it is something that Blue Lock does perfectly. And you know what? I think that we genuinely have all the ingredients of a great power system right here. But I think there's one final aspect that actually takes it from great to excellent. And it's something that's actually super underrated. I'm going to show you 3 different moments, and if you can find what they have in common, you know what? I'm going to put this crown on your freaking head. I have it here for your head. So in the first ever chapter of Blue Lock, Isagi realizes that he should have trusted himself instead of relying on other people. In this chapter, another character is scared of running because of an old injury, but he realizes that he's never going to get better if he continues like this. So he runs. And much, much later, this character says that for the first time in his life, he's going to believe in himself. And guess what? He does it. And in each of these moments, the power system kicks in. If you try to forget everything you know about the story, Blue Lock is about a bunch of dudes who become exceptional by believing in themselves. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that having too much ego or confidence is a good thing. I mean, in real life, if people acted like characters from Blue Lock, yeah, they'd probably get smacked in the face. And there are a lot of anime and manga out there that have inspirational moments, but a lot of the time, the things these characters do don't really feel like something you and I can do. I mean, listen, you can try Kamehameha or domain expansion as much as you want, I'm not gonna stop you, but nothing is coming out of there, trust me, I've tried many times. I think there's a very good reason why so many people in comment sections and online have favorite blog characters that they can relate to. They see parts of themselves in these struggles, and the power system really taps into that feeling. And I'm not saying you're going to become some football beast and score absurd goals with some confidence and ego. But with Blue Lock, it's more than just football. It's a powerful story about believing in your own potential, and that's what makes it resonate with so many. And all of this is beautifully showcased by the power system. So even though it can be very over the top, it's also pretty inspirational. Blue Lock's author is completely aware that he's writing a sports manga, and he uses that to his advantage by doing things that would be impossible for regular power systems. It's the perfect example of an author that completely understands what their story needs and creates a power system that fits that. And in my opinion, Blue Lock has nothing to envy other power systems from regular shonen series. Yeah, I mean, I guess except the fact that most regular shonen series don't have the worst anime adaptation of all time. You better be joking with